Hello, and welcome to the Kickstart Your Confidence 21-Day Global Summit. We would like to welcome you and let you know that we will begin shortly. We are live from Victoria, BC, Canada. Let us know where you're attending from in the comments. We also wanted to share our content note with you and remind folks that the information that is provided herein is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This information is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease, but to inform you, the participant, of alternative methods for healing. In all health-related situations, qualified healthcare professionals should always be consulted. Some of our experts are doctors, naturopaths, and other medical professionals. However, you are encouraged to consult your own healthcare professional. In other words, no doctor-patient relationship is informed or suggested at any time during the series. Please also keep in mind that the host finds a lot of information from credible third parties and shares it here in this online forum when it is relevant. By participating in this online event, you acknowledge and agree that the third-party content is not created by the host and is shared with you, the participant, for educational, entertainment, and informational purposes only. And in no way do they guarantee a pledge or endorsement by the host for you, the participant, to take action on what the third party suggests or recommend on their sites or in their interviews. Please understand that this event provides general information only and is never a substitute for professional and medical advice. Most importantly, please consult your healthcare provider if you suspect a serious health concern. Always seek the advice of your mental health professional or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding your condition. Your health is your wealth. Don't delay in taking the proper steps in saving your life. By the same token, we are also not providing any financial advice during this series. A summit, online forum, workshop, event is meant to inform. Taking action for your own health, finances, and life is meant to create change. Never disregard professional advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard or read that was shared during the online summit. Our platform provides an open and safer space for the critical and civil exchange of ideas that aren't often talked about when it comes to menopause and aging. Some content in this series will include topics and themes that some viewers may find difficult. We will always do our best to give you a proper heads up to prepare yourself mentally and emotionally beforehand. Thank you so much and welcome and enjoy today's show. Hi, welcome to Kickstart Your Confidence. Learn useful secrets to manage and prepare for a happy menopause without breaking a sweat, losing sleep, or opportunity. Now, I know in an ideal world, we want to make sure that we have all the information to actually hit those goals, but sometimes we just don't get the information. And that is why I wanted to introduce our lovely speaker guest today, Susan Willson. Susan is an author of Making Sense of Menopause. She has a ton of information that she's going to share with us to hopefully cut through the noise, manage the chaos of all this information, and really help us to get back to our authenticity and finding our voice. So welcome, Susan. I'm so glad to have you.
Thank you. I'm just delighted to be here.
Thank you. So I wanted to start with this concept that I learned when I was doing my training at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and this all around root cause. Because again, when it comes to menopause, we have, might be good or bad information sent to us, but sometimes it's like we don't know what's the right information. And then on the other hand, we have information, it's like, why didn't anyone tell us that? And so if you were looking at all of that, that big spectrum, is there something, a root cause that you could say that is universal to anyone who is going to be experiencing menopause or managing it? And is there something that you could say is that one thing that we can go back to and look at?
Do you mean root cause to symptoms? Or, of course, the root cause to menopause is that our hormones are changing. And I like to suggest that people really see this as a continuum because that's what it is. It starts actually in the womb and goes forward until death. And we often in our culture think about menopause as something that happens to us. It's going to happen to us, and better get ready because it's going to be harsh, because those are the stories that we hear. But in fact, we go through several of these hormonal transitions in our life as women, and they can be pretty tricky, but we always find our feet on the other side of it and become the next thing, because that's what nature has in mind. And there's a plan in place for all of this. Each stage, builds and gets you ready for the next. So I like to remind them, really, you've got this, because this is not something new that's never happened before that's going to take you down. It's kind of trite, but I love the metaphor of the caterpillar and the butterfly, because it literally applies here. Caterpillar and butterfly, exact same DNA. The only thing that's different between these two creatures that look different, act different, have different things motivating them is that time in the chrysalis where, melts down into mush and comes out the new next beautiful thing. And that's really what's happening in menopause, because our hormones literally change us into different creatures. They stimulate different parts of our brain. And the real gift to me at menopause is that we come out of that, what I think of as a hormonal trance that we're in during the reproductive years, because the hormone that runs our menstrual cycle makes it possible to be fertile, have children. The estradiol is stimulating parts of our brain that, of course, make us want to make babies, nurture everything in sight, scan men for their genetic potential when they come in the room, whether we're happily partnered or not. It's that impulse to reproduce and nurture. And that also tends to put us at the bottom of our own lists and make us doormats for our family. That hormone supports that. So at menopause, the real gift is that hormone's coming down. The other estrogen, estriol, is coming up, and that literally stimulates creative centers in your brain. So this is the time when women are going to want to dance that dance, paint that painting, start that business, write that book, whatever it is that is moving them. And since you're working with women entrepreneurs, I think it's really important to get back to where we're really finding out authentically what our passion is, what we would really want to give our gift to the world, what that thing is that we really came to do. And a lot of times women, when they're in the middle of menopause, go, well, I have no idea. I can't even think my own thoughts right now because things are just kind of crazy. So I like to suggest that maybe, think back to when you were 10 years old, right before the hormones hit and changed everything. 10-year-old girls are very clear about who they are and what moves them in the world and things like this. So I think that a process of self-inquiry at this time of life is really useful to find out what's authentic. So the root of what we're going through, of course, is hormones changing. But if you want to talk about what the root of symptoms might be, we can go there too.
Wow. I mean, there was so much in there that I want to just harken back to. It's a couple of things that you said was, about babies in the womb. And so I know that you're part of the midwifery, if I'm correct, right? And so
Yeah.
when it comes to our early childhood, and I think you mentioned like 10 years old, for example, we can't go back in time, but
Right.
what are some of those things that, yes, like in our self-discovery and self-inquiry, how can we go back and then bring ourselves forward into this present time so that we can maybe leverage some of those happier times, or those, more pure times, I should say, because it might not always been happy for some of us, but they were more pure times.
Yeah, a couple of things. I've actually written a book that has a lot of processes that women can go through to discover this, but there are several things that are useful. I think certainly talking to other people in our family can help us to remember things, but it's very potent sometimes to go back and pull out pictures, or if there are any movies or anything of yourself at different times of life, because as a outside observer looking at that picture or at that film, if you were looking at that person as if they were someone else, you might notice things in the posture or in the expression on the face or something that would, kind of clue you into something that was going on. And then if you think about where in your body you feel that, when, you look at that, just go, oh, is there somewhere when I think about this experience that it comes up for me in my body? And follow that in. It can often reveal a lot of information about what's going on, but there are many different ways that one can begin to unpack the early experience. And I feel like this is very important because so often our identity as women, as it forms over our lives, is informed more by parents, teachers' reflection to us, the culture and what it tells us we're supposed to be, and what it means to be successful, or what it means to be a woman, that these things are just taken on. And much of it happens very early. The brain, until we're about 6 years old, just downloads things as truth when it comes into us, because we haven't yet been able to build the analytic capacity to filter through information and go, well, was that true or not true? Or maybe mom's having a bad day, or maybe that teacher just doesn't like me, or maybe I trigger someone in a certain way, and they give you these messages that this is who you are. And we carry this, and we carry our stories with us throughout our lives and build upon those. And I think it is one reason it's so important for us now to tell our stories, not only to share with other women and other people. We can educate the community about what it is that we're really going through as menopausal women. We're talking about it for the first time more openly. But also, most women go through it feeling somewhat isolated, certainly until very recently. And it's important that we know that we're not alone, that other people are going through this, that this is normal, that there are things that you can do to help. So I think all of that.
Yeah, I think, it's so tough because when you say that we feel like we're isolated or we're alone, it's so interesting because there's so many of us and we're all going
Yeah.
through the same thing. Well, some symptoms, some not symptoms, right? It's an individual experience, right? But we're all going to go through this thing called menopause, but yet we don't have that connectivity. So how do we find that connectedness in the present day and within ourselves, with others as well? What would you say to someone who's maybe feeling that sense of isolation?
Well, I would say that in my experience, listening to a lot of women's stories and talking about them, that all our secrets are the same secret, really. I mean, we move through life needing to feel like we're looking good, whatever that may mean, because if you don't present with confidence or as if you know what's going on, a lot of people in this culture just dismiss you, particularly at this time of life. And so many of us do hold things inside. We do keep secrets. We were taught to keep secrets in our families when we were young. Same thing, wanting to present a solid front to the world. And I would say gather with 2 or 3 people that you feel who really see you, or that you can at least be honest and transparent with, and begin to talk about these things. Again, I've written a book that has a lot of processes in there for self-inquiry and for looking at very easy things, that you can either take or not take, or, do. But to do it in a group becomes very powerful, because then you're sharing your stories. And if there are things that need to be healed, they're never fully healed until they're witnessed, right? We can think that we have a handle on what a certain experience meant for us, or a certain trauma. But sometimes if we're talking to other people, even as the words leave our mouth, we hear somehow that they're not true, that this story we've been telling over and over again to define ourselves isn't really authentic or true. So there's that piece, but also to have someone else hear it to be seen. And often you find out, oh, yeah, that happened to me too. And this is how it affected my life. So it allows for a lot of self-compassion, which I think is critical as we move forward into this next part of our life, because we're literally going to be looking at all that came before, deciding what still makes sense to us, what we want to carry forward with us. And we can't do that if we're in self-loathing or beating up on ourselves or any of that. So very important to develop a sense of perspective about your own life and create some compassion for yourself. We're usually doing the best we can do at any juncture of our lives, and how wonderful that we get to another point where we can do better. We don't need to beat ourselves up for what came before.
Yeah, I totally get that. And this idea about being okay, so most of the times we're reactive, right? We're reactive to, okay, maybe like, we don't start thinking about menopause until all of a sudden, maybe, for example, you get hot flashes or you have brain fog, and of course, again, I want to just make it very clear that some people don't have those symptoms, right? So it's not a one size fits all. But for example, if you're all of a sudden you're like, why am I not sleeping? Why am I having these hot sweats? We're very reactive. Is there a way to be proactive?
Yes, and I think that that's critical to do that so that you can have a smoother transition, for sure. So if you're talking about root cause of symptoms, I would say it goes back to the adrenal system in our bodies, and that's what's there that manages our survival, fight or flight. So we were made to run into a mastodon on the plane, have this tidal wave of hormones move through our body so we could run faster, fight harder, climb a higher tree, and survive that encounter. And the way our bodies were made and the way it used to be, once that critical encounter was over, everything kind of came back to normal again and back to steady state until you ran into the next mastodon, which wasn't usually 5 minutes later. So that process, once it's triggered in the body, lasts 2 or 3 hours. So these days, because the body really doesn't know the difference between running into a mastodon on the plane or sitting in traffic, having work stress, having financial stress, illness, fight with your partner, you name it. The body doesn't distinguish, even good stress. And that happens so that we're in stew and chew all day long. We have fight or fright triggered in our body over and over and over again. And we're in this constant state of, heightened until you get to where you're exhausted. But we like adrenaline. It feels good. You feel a little more alert. You feel like you're on top of the world. You can get it all done. And so many of us actually move toward keeping adrenaline high in our bodies. And that's part of what I think of as good stress. You can have a woman who loves her life, that gets up at 5:30 in the morning, hits the gym to have her workout, gets her morning latte, heads for work, works at a job that she really enjoys all day long, and then goes out to dinner with friends and falls in bed at 11:30 or midnight at night. And her body's been in fight or flight all day. She loves her life, but it's not that much different to her body than the woman holding down 2 jobs and raising kids that, might have a non-helpful partner or no partner at all, or someone who's abusive to them. They have the additional emotional burden of the negative stress, but the woman who has the positive stress, her body's in stress too. So if you empty out your adrenals and they do get very fatigued, you're going to have more and more and more symptoms. It doesn't matter what you do. You can take hormones till the cows come home, supplements till the cows come home. But if your adrenals are exhausted, they're going to keep drawing on your hormones for adrenal survival hormones, and you're still going to have all of these symptoms. You're not going to have enough left in the form that you want them, because nature makes it so that our body's hormones, turn into each other as we need them to meet the needs of the moment. So they're all based on the cholesterol molecule. Estrogen will turn into progesterone if necessary, will turn into testosterone if necessary, will turn into cortisol, the ones that are going to be there for fight or flight. And so very little difference between cortisol and progesterone. So if you're stressed, your body's going to suck up all your progesterone first, make you out of balance, have more of the PMSy type symptoms. So women experience this in perimenopause as well. And, you know, if you still can't make enough to meet your stress needs, it just keeps drawing on those. So that's when you have more symptoms. And to be proactive, what I would say is to begin to put the lifestyle changes in place that are going to have you with healthy adrenals when you reach menopause. I have women come in all the time that say, well, sure, I'm stressed, but no more so than usual. And I miss a couple of periods and all of a sudden hot flashes, night sweats, can't sleep, my hair's falling out, have no libido, gaining weight. How can just missing a period or two make all this happen? And it's not that you just missed a period or two. It's really that the whole system that's there to catch the ball at menopause is too tired to go, because nature makes it so that when the ovaries stop making estradiol, the adrenal and fat cells are supposed to make our hormones for the second half of life, and they can't do that if they're exhausted. So I know that's a lot to kind of take in at once, but it's all moving along with each other. And the thing you can do is manage stress, and that's the hardest thing for most of us to do. So I would say start small, do what you can do. You know, if you can get to bed by 10:30 at night, that has a ripple effect that's huge through your whole life and your whole body, because the adrenals will replenish themselves in deep sleep at night. That's when they do it. And if you're not getting that deep sleep, you're just, you know, making yourself further depleted. So do that. Make sure your blood sugar is stable. Have little protein snacks if you need to during the day. Create a rhythm in your life to conserve energy. You know, if your body knows when you're going to be more active, when you're going to be eating, when you're going to be more restful, it can have the right amount of energy available to you at each of those times. But if we're always random and running here and there and have no rhythm in our life, then the body has to have high energy available all the time, and it kind of depletes the bank account, so to speak.
I so appreciate you saying that. So what I'm gathering from that is that, you know, as women, I know this is hard, but we have to take back, reclaim our space. We have to take space, take up space to say, you know what, I need to be in bed at a certain time to feel better. I need to, you know, have more meditation space. I need to have more water. I need to, you know, how do we reclaim that? How do we take up space, you know, in a way that's going to help us to manage the stress, to, you know, make sure that we're not having adrenal fatigue. And because I know that's a big one, because sometimes we're moms, sometimes we're CEOs, sometimes we're, you know, the HR person that everyone wants to give everything to, right? So we're coming from different aspects, and as entrepreneurs, you know, running a business, and, you know, it's a lot. So how do we take that space to say, you know what, I'm going to honor myself today and start these new habits, for example?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think first it takes being aware of what it is you really do in a day. So I like to have women make something as simple as a good for me, bad for me list, and look at your life, your day with a bold eye, and say, okay, what am I doing that nourishes me? What's in my life that actually nourishes me? What's in my life that depletes me, doesn't really give anything back? And look at your tasks through the day. Even something as small as picking up a teenager's socks off the floor or something like that. Really, what am I doing for others? What am I doing that nourishes me and contributes to the larger thing I want to contribute to? And then look at your list and just say, well, okay, is my teenager capable of picking up his own socks? Yes. Okay. Check that one off. Delegate. You're now in charge of picking up your own socks. I'm not going to do it anymore. Or you're in charge of doing whatever it is you're able to. I'm not going to pick up your slack. So if you feel slack, you'll deal with those consequences because I'm letting you know now that I'm not going to do it. Set some boundaries. Add more to your life of what nourishes you. If you take a walk on Saturdays and take your camera with you and really love taking pictures and that lights you up, do more of that. Find a way to incorporate the good stuff into your life, because joy and pleasure make such huge differences in our bodies. They change everything. They change our chemical balance, change our hormone balance, changes our whole neurological system. So I think it's important to look at our life, what's nourishing me, what's not giving back. Now, there's always that kind of line in the middle, like maybe you're taking care of aging parents, or you have committed to be on a certain committee till the end of the year or whatever, that you can't get out of. But there are many things that you can begin to let go of. There are other things that you can set boundaries around. And then you want to invite into your life the things that are going to bring more joy and pleasure. So that's a simple way to become aware of it. And then I would say move toward the open space. Do what you feel like you can do. We can't really change everything all at once. It becomes overwhelming. And then we feel like failures when we haven't done it. So choose one thing, whether it's getting to bed earlier, whether it's drinking more water, whether it's adding that pleasurable thing, or taking a bath at night before you go to bed, or just turning off the phone, whatever it is that you can do, that you feel like you can do. Each thing that you choose has a big ripple effect. And that's going to be different for different women too. So.
Yeah, that's great. And through that, I feel like that's where you can find that authentic voice that you speak of.
Yes.
When you can leverage set boundaries, and you can say, you know what, this is what I need. And I love the list that, like, I'm going to do that for myself because, I have a almost 5-year-old, and, sometimes I'm picking up those socks and I'm like, you can pick up the socks. He picks up the socks, but he's finding little habits. So if we teach them younger, we can have a little more time for ourselves, right?
And make it fun for them. Sometimes I think with the little kids, having visual aids is a good thing. Make a little chart, have gold stars. I'm aging myself there by saying that, but there are a lot of like little treats or little things that we can do to reward behaviors and make it fun for young children as well. And menopausal women in our culture right now are kind of caught in the middle. Our parents are living longer. We're waiting till we're older to have our children often. So it's not at all unusual to be straddling two worlds and having young children to care for, having parents to care for on the other end, and then having, finding ourselves at the most creative time in our life where we really want to do something for ourselves as well, and just feeling overwhelmed and not doing any of it well because we don't feel like we can step up to that plate. So
I could just pick your brain forever because I just feel like there's been so many great wisdoms, that you have imparted. But if I can just say, if there was just one thing, one little takeaway, one gem, one nugget that you don't feel like is shared with us, going through these stages, that you would want someone to perk up and like lean in right now and just really listen to, is there anything that you would want to share with us?
Well, I would say that the number one, menopause is really in your hands, because wherever you go, there you are. And it is never more true than this time of life. So become aware of who you are that you're bringing to this. And if it doesn't feel authentic, then there are many ways to get back to hearing that authentic voice. Number one, I would say, be proactive. Don't buy into the message that your life is over, because that's what the culture wants to tell us. And it's just not true. It's not true. Talk to people, tell your stories, be transparent if you can. Get yourself a posse, menopause posse, and, have some women that you can go through this with, talk about things. And as I said, many different ways that we can ways into that information. And that feels so important to me that I wrote it all down.
Lovely. Oh my gosh. And so, Susan, as we kind of wrap up this, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing just so many nuggets of wisdom. And they're just, I feel like you share practical nuggets of wisdom. And for anyone who wants to maybe continue on with you and maybe, be able to just get even more juicy with you and be part of your posse, do you have any things that you want to share with them today or how to find you?
Sure. I have a website called Making Sense of Menopause.com, and I blog, I write on many different areas. I encourage people to let me know if there's a subject they want to talk about and discuss, and then I can write next month on that. I want it to be a back and forth and engaging sort of thing. And then I have written a book that's in the world called Making Sense of Menopause, harnessing the power and potency of your wisdom years, that will really, it gives information about how the female body works, why things are happening as they are at different stages of life, and gives you simple things that you can choose to engage with regarding each of those stages if you want to do that. And it talks a lot about the changes in sexuality at this time of life and how we move into the next stage, what that's about, and how to embrace that in a way that's meaningful to both ourselves and those that come behind us. So those two ways, and of course there's a Twitter and a Instagram and a Facebook page too, but you can find all of that off the website. And I do want people to engage both with me and with each other around this time of life. I just want to reframe this as a positive, purposeful process, because it is. There's purpose to it. And the more we can embrace it, the more goodies we get from it.
Well, you are part of the goodies, if you ask me, because I learned so much today just sitting with you, just for a brief moment of this experience. And I just wanted to say thank you again. And so, Susan Willson, you have really definitely helped me have hope that I can use my voice and I can still be authentic as I move through this journey. And you're so appreciated. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I really enjoyed talking to you. I've talked a lot. I know I've crammed a lot into a short period of time, but I don't want it to be overwhelming. Listen to it again and connect the dots. And it makes sense the more you hear it.
100%. I think this was amazing. So I guess that's a wrap for this episode of Kickstart Your Confidence. And we'll see you next time.
All right.
Bye. Thank you.